So let's start with the prayers. You all have the prayers, and we'll start. Palen sebe lama rinpoche dage chiwa pene den shula kadrin chempe gone jesunte Kusun du jing du sadu so sanje chudang suji chunam la shangju badu tane chab suji dagi jinso jibe sunam ji drola penje sanje rupa sho sanje chudang chi chonam sanje badu tane chab suji dagi jinso jibe sunam ji drola penje sanje rupa sho sanje chudang soji chonam la shangju badu dani chab suji dagi jinso jipe sunam ji drola penje Pasho semchen tamje devadang deve judang den pajujik dungadang dungajin judang jalwa jujik dungal mepe deva dampadang minjalwa jujik Niering chadang dang dalwe tonyom tempola nepa jujik semchen tamje devadang deve judang den pa jujik dungadang dungaji judang dalwa jujik Dungal mepe tampadang mindal wajujik Nireng chadang dan dalwe tonyom tempola nepa jujik Semchen tamje devadang deve judang den pa jujik Dungadang dungaji judang dalwa jujik Dungal mepe dewa tampadang mindal wajujik Nyering chadang dan dalwe tonyom tempola nepa jujik Chasawadang chujing shakpadang Jesu yirang kushing salvaye Gewa chumse dagi chisakpa Tamje dagi shanju chingo. So good morning. And Nikita, would you mind bringing me over that red table? So I have a little table here. Thank you. We got so many tables. We brought all the tables, or you brought all the tables down from upstairs. So now we have an abundance. Thank you. And so if anybody is missing, I think a couple of people are joining today. If anybody is missing the text, James, I don't have yours here, but you can have another one. So anybody doesn't have a text, please come and get it. Yeah. And please write your name on the text. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
There you go. So write your name in case you forget it, then we'll know it's yours and you'll get it next time. But please don't forget it. So we are continuing. This is only our second letter to a friend. And I was actually just up in Samyeling in last month for the October retreat. Please come and sit down. Are you for the first time here? Then you'll need a text. I was just handing out texts. So very sorry to, all the attention is on you now. Never happen again. So I was just up in Samyeling, and Khenpo Wangchuk from Sherabling Nunnery was teaching this text in Samyeling every day. It was really nice, and it was so good to hear him teach these verses, and it kind of gave me confidence as well. We are doing the text, and I felt like, yes, it's nice, we can do it too. And it was really nice to listen to his teachings. And what he did each time, like each session, he did a little bit of reflection, more reflection and meditation on different topics that were there. So maybe we can do the same. In each session we do a little bit of reflection on what these verses were about. So it means that you reflect on how does it relate to me, basically, you know. Patience. How does patience? How much patience do I have? Anger. How am I doing in that area? Desire. All the aspects. Diligence. So there are different themes as we go through, and we will try and reflect and spend a few minutes on reflection. It made it feel like very meaningful the way he did it. So just to let you know that. And so what we have to think, what is important to think, of course, this is a text that was written, and now first of all I should tell you, we should all place our mind in a state of bodhicitta. Now I was late, so you had about 10 minutes to sit and meditate on bodhicitta. I'm sure you all did that. If you didn't, please remember that every single session you should remember why you are practicing, why you are studying. It's not just about learning a text. It's not just about learning words. It is so we can become more capable, first of all, in managing our own mind, our own world, our own emotions, our own sort of situation. And then we have to have the motivation and intention that we can extend that. It's not enough that we're just working on ourselves. We have to extend that, and we need to set that intention for every single session. That's the reason we are practicing. That's the reason we are meditating. That's the reason we are studying. It has to be, because that's what it means to be a Buddha. And even though that is so far away, being a Buddha, it is the ultimate goal. It is where we are going. It is where this path is leading us, maybe lifetimes and lifetimes from now. But we need to set the intention, you know, tighten your bow and arrow and aim it at that spot in the distance. So place your mind in that mindset of saying, I'm doing this not just for myself. I'm doing this so I can improve myself, become a better person, and be a benefit to others. That's why I'm studying. That's why I'm listening. And then I'll set the intention to be very focused, to be listening when I have to listen, to be meditating and concentrating when I have to meditate, to be remembering when I have to remember. and not to be just daydreaming and being distracted. So in that sense, studying these texts is also a form of meditation, because we have to again be mindful and focused in order to benefit from it. So we should think about this text, which is a letter to a friend, which was, as I explained last time, Nagarjuna's friend, the king, the great king, that he met as a young child. He saw his potential. He told him he would later become a king, and he met him years and years later, and he spent some time with him. And during that period of time, he wrote this text for him as a letter to a friend. How precious is that? If you were that king, to have someone like Nagarjuna write that letter for you. But of course, it was not written only for Nagarjuna. It's written for all of us as well. And we should take this text in, thinking this was written for me. This is a letter for me from Nagarjuna. Because all these great masters, they always think of future generations. They have the long-term view. They don't just think of the immediate surroundings. So think of that when you study it, and then you must remember that it was written 2,000 years ago. 2,000 years ago. It's quite a long time, isn't it? In one way, it's not that long, but in another way, it's quite a long time. So in terms of what changes happen over a period of 2,000 years, in terms of like culture and speech and outlook, etc. So remember that also when you see some of it, and you think it maybe sounds a little bit kind of, well, certainly not modern language. So think of that, remember that. And remember it was written for a lay person who was a king, who was a very, very busy person, who had lots and lots of responsibilities and stresses and burdens and people complaining to him and neighbors attacking him and people wanting money and strife within the palace and whatever else was going on, I don't know, but certainly being a king would have been like, I guess, like being a prime minister or something, a politician in those days. You're torn to pieces, really, I imagine. Or you are mentally very, there's a lot of pressure. So in some sense, 21st century, everybody has pressures. You all have pressures. You are all lay people. So I feel this text is very good for you, but you do need to translate it into here now, 21st century, and later on, or maybe today, I don't know if we get to it today, you need to remember it was written to a king and not to a queen. It was written to a male. But you need to recognize that all of that can be, whether it's male, female, it is interchangeable. He's written this to a king, and so he talks about him not having desire for, like, all of the faults of desire and how that doesn't go with meditation. But of course, it could be desire for the opposite sex. There could be a queen desiring a male. It could be any form of desire, really. So you need to keep that in mind when we study the text, okay? And last time we covered the outline of the text, introduction to the text, and the life of Nagarjuna, so I'm not going to go over that again. We covered from verse 1 till verse 14. So today we're going to continue from verse 15 onwards, and then also, yes, we'll do some reflection. So some of the text, it says particularly, it is a particular advice, general advice for lay people. Some of it we did last time. So the text itself, we went through the title of the text, the Sanskrit, language of the gods, and the Tibetan title. Then we went through the translator's homage. There's always a translator's homage, which is an expression of their humility. Not just, I guess, it's not just words, but really they genuinely feel humble at the prospect of composing this text. And then, not composing but translating, it was the translator's homage, who translated it from Sanskrit into Tibetan. So that was the homage to Manjushri. And then there was Nagarjuna's commitment to compose the text. That was like a sort of introduction, the first verse. And first, second, and third verse is Nagarjuna's sort of introduction and teaching about the importance of humility in this studying and composing the text, and in his wish to gain merit, etc. So the three first verses are the introduction, and then you have the main part. That is what we are now. And then the whole text has the introduction, main part, and conclusion. So we're in the main part, and from verse 4. That talks about the objects of faith and that's a refuge, a summary of what to keep in mind. So you could say that first, Nagarjuna, he teaches us the importance of the three jewels and taking refuge. This is a Buddhist text, of course. There's a Buddhist text that has very much a Buddhist view, expressing the Buddhist view. So it starts by paying homage and remembering the importance of the three jewels, the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. In verse 4, it says a summary of what to keep in mind, what we should always keep in mind. Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, and ethics, generosity and ethics. So we should never forget the Buddha, like the path, and we should never forget ethics. Ethics, it says, is like the ground on which is like the foundation for the path. It is that which supports all things. Without ethics, without knowing what is right and wrong on the path, there will be no path, really. So he's kind of saying that we need to take the whole package, even though of course it's up to each one how we understand it and how we relate to the teachings. Personally, on a personal level. So just to summarize what we did, then there's a detailed explanation of the last 3 points out of these 6 that we had, to sort of virtue, generosity, and ethics. Actually, that might even be part of I don't know whether that's the main text or the main text starts maybe with verse 8. So the beginning was a sort of introduction up to verse 7. Then you have verse 8, you have a brief explanation of the path through the 10 virtues, the perfections, and then a detailed explanation of the 6 perfections from verse 9 onwards. And that's where it says it's especially advice for lay people. This is the reason it says that is because monastics have already taken vows. So monastics are already following the precepts of no killing, no stealing, no lying, no sexual misconduct, even more than that, but no intoxicants, like the 5, you could say, root vows, which kind of lay out the path of discipline. So that he talks about ethics, meaning the discipline to be observed. Now, if you're a lay person, some people, I don't know, some people feel uncomfortable talking about right conduct, moral conduct, ethics, I don't know. But I guess that's why when it's explained, then we come to understand better the importance of it. And then it is not like somebody telling us, you must do this. It's not like what do you call that? Is it called prohibited, or is it called like, there's no one there, of course, telling us what we must do and what we must not do. I think you're all aware of that. It is very much our own individual path and our own individual choice. And our choices should come out of understanding. And so the point is to understand what is the purpose of the teachings. What is the purpose of these 6 foundations? What are the faults of not having them? What are, by faults, I mean, what are the drawbacks? What are the consequences of not having right conduct? What are the consequences of right conduct? And then when we understand that, then we are naturally, being sensible people, we naturally go for what is, what causes happiness instead of causing more chaos and more confusion in our lives, right? So it is not, we should not read it as some kind of telling off or some sort of judgment. More like we should see it from our point of view and try to understand it more deeply. Okay, so there's a detailed explanation in from verse 9, that's what it says, for lay people, like about ethics, generosity, discipline, ethics to be observed, like the things to avoid. Avoid all harm, don't steal. It says make love or lie, that means no sexual misconduct. Abstain from drink. If you're trying to tame your mind, it makes sense to say abstain from drink. There are some seats up here in the front for those of you who are just arriving. Please. There are also some seats over there. Do you have a text? So you will need are you on the course? Okay. Then you'll need the text. You have the text. Thank you. Yeah. Please write your name on at the top. So that's for you to keep all the texts. So verse 10, all of these things are saying this is what we should, if we want to develop peace of mind. Basically, he's telling the king how to have a good, peaceful life, how to have a life free from stresses and upsets, and have a very, positive life, and eventually become a bodhisattva. If that is what you're looking for, then this is what you should avoid. You should avoid harming others. You should avoid doing anything that goes against taming your mind. You should avoid anything that stirs up the mind and stirs up negative emotions. And then he talks about vows and precepts. And he says we should give up stinginess and cunning, greed and sloth and arrogance, attachment, hate and pride. It's like the ethics of restraint is called. So all of these aspects of mind, say pretending to have good qualities if we don't, or hiding our own faults, or cunning, sloth, laziness, all of that is something we should be aware of and rein in. Because they are the enemies of good. They are the enemies of what we are trying to accomplish. We should recognize that if we don't overcome our negative tendencies, then it will be very hard for us to tame our mind. It's sort of this verse by the Buddha and the Dhammapada in a very simple way that says to give up negative actions, to practice positive actions, to tame your mind. That is the teachings of the Buddha. So this is what he's talking about, ethics, giving up harmful and practicing the positive, and then taming our mind. So all of that, he's saying, that's the ground, the foundation for the path. And in order to give that up, then we need to cultivate carefulness. Verse 13. Cultivate carefulness that's compatible with the ethics of virtue. We're doing all the good stuff, doing all the good things. So if we have managed to identify and be aware of our negative habits, then we need to also be aware of what is positive and to cultivate that. So for that we need carefulness. Verse 13, he says, that's very important. Carefulness is the way to deathlessness. Through being careful, being mindful, being aware, this is the essence of the path, isn't it? And then there are examples in verse 14 of the benefit of carefulness. See, they are like the moon emerging from behind the clouds. And then there were some stories about that. So that's where we are. I'm just a quick run through because a few people who I think came here for the first time, like now, today. So we'll continue with verse 15 then. And now we're talking still about giving up the aspects that undermine our efforts to develop all these positive qualities. So it's both. It looks at both at the same time, the positive qualities and the negative qualities. And the next couple of verses are about anger and about patience. So it's about giving up anger as a cause. By giving up anger, it becomes a cause for developing patience. And giving up resentment, that becomes a result of patience. So here, Nagarjuna says, hard to practice, patience knows no equal, no peer. So never allow yourself a moment's rage. Avoid all anger and you will become a non-returner. This is what the Buddha said. So this is clearly about patience and anger, how, we have so many opportunities for developing, giving rise to anger, and at the same time so many opportunities for patience. Each time there is both. We can choose one or the other. We can go down the path of anger, we can choose patience, but that is, we have to have that enough awareness and carefulness to be able to make that choice. Mostly we are just purely reactive, and we mostly go for the anger, we mostly go for the negative side, don't we? It's so automatic and so spontaneous. So we need to understand the faults of anger. So this seems to come a recurring theme. Just the other day we were also talking about anger. I was talking about anger on Thursday, one of the Thursdays. So anger, we need to understand that it is very, very destructive. And we, ourselves, we suffer when we feel angry, and we make others suffer due to our anger. Even if we don't express it in very direct ways through our speech, our actions, even if we express what we call cold anger, where we turn our back to people and we don't speak to them and we pretend not to be angry, but we are building a wall between us and them, we're still expressing anger. So we need to recognize, first of all, how painful it is. Like we feel very disturbed if somebody is angry at us, right? We feel very unsettled. Sometimes we don't know what is going on. Others give us the cold shoulder, or others explode for some reason, or give us sharp answers. So recognizing the harm and the faults of anger is important, meaning we see that our mind is disturbed, we cannot sleep, we cannot eat, we cannot enjoy anything when we are totally caught up in anger. We can't think about anything else. It is a very obsessive mind. Actually, all the emotions, when they're strong, they're very obsessive. And that's an aspect of the negative emotions, is that they don't allow us to let go. We're like stuck. That sense of being hooked on the emotions. We become the victims of our own emotions, the negative emotions. So anger causes so much destruction in terms of relationships, our friendships, family, colleagues, on a wider sense in our world. You know, you may have friendships that you have had for a long, long time, but if you start to let out your anger and to just say whatever in that moment of anger, say whatever you have on your mind, you might find that that friendship is destroyed, because people will remember those words for years and years to come. They go very deep. So we have to be very careful with anger. It is so forceful, has a lot of strength behind it. And actually it says without ego clinging, anger itself could just simply be like a very forceful energy that could be a forceful energy for good. If it wasn't so entangled with our own selfishness and ego, which it is, and as long as it is that, then we can't think of it as a pure energy, because we only cause damage when we let it out. But we can see the potential of, if we are a very, very angry person, if we can purify our self-importance, maybe then we could become somebody who could really accomplish a lot of things, because we have that energy, we have that strength, and we can purify the negativity. It's like distilling that out of, or purifying out, like purified water. You take all of the different impurities out and you just have the pure essence itself. In that sense, anger can be a very useful energy. But when we're overwhelmed by it from a neurotic point of view, it is very, very damaging. One of the easiest to recognize and one of the most destructive, because in such a short period of time, we can destroy everything. So here, Nagarjuna says, never allow yourself a moment's rage. Avoid all anger. And then you will become a non-returner. A non-returner is a practitioner, someone great, realized being like Arhat, who has purified all the finest, most finest of the afflictions, the fine or very subtle levels of the afflictions within the desire realm. They're not enlightened, but they have purified the subtle afflictions in the desire realm itself. And so we can see clearly how anger works in our own mind. We need to look and reflect then on our own anger and saying, how strong are my tendencies? The negative emotions have different degrees of intensity. We have subtle irritation, we have judgmental mindset where we're always finding faults in others, and we have directly where we are speaking badly of others or to others, or we are actually blowing up and arguing and fighting and in a bigger scale, of course, we see in the world the damage that anger does, fighting, wars, trying to, people fighting over land, fighting over all different kinds of, objects, but it's still selfish involvement. So it's compared to a fire, and just like a fire, the strength of a fire that burns and destroys everything on its path, anger destroys everything on its path. Think of a time when you yourself have had an argument with someone, and how did it go? What was the benefit of that? Was there a benefit from that? Only it leaves a lot of work to do at the end of the argument. There's a lot of reconciling, apologizing, coming back together, trying to make up, embarrassment. You're a practitioner, you're a Buddhist, you should not be angry. Your children will tell you that. So everybody will judge you. And also when we look at somebody who is angry, they look really bad, don't they? We look really bad when we are angry. All red in the face and furious. And it's like all the worst aspects of our mind is exposed. And it says anger has the very obvious signs, external obvious signs, and then hidden results or consequences, you could say. The external, clear, obvious consequences and the hidden consequences. So the external signs are these consequences of having an argument or whatever it is, and all of the hurt that is a result of it. And the hidden consequences is the karma. The karmic consequences of us giving into anger and planting more seeds for anger. And it's like each time we give into a negative affliction, we are strengthening that affliction, and we are creating tendencies. We are strengthening the tendencies to be more angry, to have more negativity, and of course the consequences that will return as obstacles or in various ways, that we will have people probably causing problems for us, whether in this life or in future lives. So there are many, many reasons why we should consider the importance of being mindful and aware when these situations arise where we very quickly can give into anger. Instead, be patient, to try and develop patience, to know the benefits of patience. Actually I found in the mind training teachings on Chekawa's 7 points of mind training, he says there are 4 methods of practicing patience. 4 methods. One is practicing it like in a way of shooting arrows, putting up a target for shooting arrows. One is cultivating loving kindness, compassion. One is practicing like a master and his pupil. And one is practicing in the way of understanding the nature of reality. So that's 4 ways we could think of relating to patience. The point is we need to remember in that situation of conflict that if we can practice patience, we will really benefit, and we will take a leap forward. It's the best for us, and it's the best for others. Never mind what it feels like in the situation itself. But so the first of these ways of practicing patience in the fashion of putting up a target for shooting arrows, it's kind of reasoning where you say that, well, if you didn't place the target for the arrow, that the arrow can hit the target that everybody has, and you shoot the arrow, so you put up that target. Without the target, it can't be hit by an arrow. So here, this is a metaphor for saying that if you had not put up the target through your own past karma, then you would not now be hit by these arrows that are coming at you, the arrows that you have to be patient towards. This is not in your text, right? It's just just elaborating on patience. So it's a way to reason. We have to reason with ourselves. Have to say, well, actually, this is all due to my own karma. It's because I acted in ways in the past, so now all this is coming towards me. I should be patient. Through my own negative karma in the past, I am now the target for this anger of others. So I should practice patience with that. I should not be angry at it or from this harm or this blame from others, whatever it is that is coming towards us and that's making us upset. Second type of patience, it says, through loving kindness. And this is, it is like when we think, well, the people who are acting the way they are, instead of me getting angry at them, I should think of them as they are just like drunk. They are like my parents being drunk, and they've lost their senses a bit because of drink. If I see somebody who is drunk, I wouldn't really seriously be very angry at them. I would just kind of put up with them like kids in a way, and wait for things to calm down. So in the same way, here we can reason and view the person that's harming us now as someone who is crazy, or someone who's crazed by the afflictions, somebody who's drunk by the afflictions. Somebody who, if an angry person comes towards us, or a person who wants to harm us in whatever way, we think, well, this person is just like, he's not in his right mind. We should feel sorry for him. He's suffering. So that's the way we recommend it to think. Practice patience. Then it says how to practice patience in the way of a master and his pupil. It's explained as, again, we should reason. So all of this is through reasoning. It's not like if we can just be patient. Patience doesn't just come by itself. Anger seems to come just by itself. But patience is, we have to encourage it. We have to talk sense to ourselves. And so this third way of practicing patience, in the way of a master and a pupil, it says that we should reason and say that just like when there is no preceptor, there's no one there to give us precepts, and there is no vows. If there's no one to give precepts, in the same way, if there is no teacher to teach, then there is no knowledge for the students. There's no knowledge of the teachings in general. And so in the same way, when one thing is missing, the other thing is missing, we think that if there were no enemies, I would not have an opportunity to practice patience. So I should be grateful for my enemies. I should be happy. This is good news for me. What would I do? This is something that we are often taught, isn't it? That without sentient beings, without other beings, how would we be able to practice generosity? Who would we practice generosity to? Who would we practice patience with? Who would we practice right conduct in relation to? All of the 6 perfections are in relation to others. And especially here in terms of developing patience, if we had no one to trigger us, to press our buttons, to show us our weaknesses, how would we then know? How would we, because we don't really stretch ourselves. We tend not to stretch ourselves unless we have to. So how would we really deeply develop that patience? Patience comes, we need to stretch ourselves. Like the more challenges we have, the more skillful we become, the more we learn how to handle a situation, the more we learn how to handle our own emotions. Certainly if we are, we have to try, we have to work with it. It doesn't happen just by a whole lot of people insulting us. We have to have the right attitude and reflect on it and change our mind so that we don't jump into the same old way of reacting. So then the fourth way of practicing patience is through the ultimate reality, through understanding the ultimate reality, ultimate view. Where we think, if we're familiar with that, we think that ultimately the nature of reality is like a dream. Things appear, but they have no solid, true, independent existence of their own accord. Things happen. Of course they do. Things appear. Of course they do. I can see them, I can hear them, I can touch them, I experience things. It's not like if there's nothing, but they don't exist of their own accord, independently of their own accord. So that's what you call emptiness or voidness. It's appearance and emptiness together. It's like the dreamlike nature of samsara. That's how we should train ourselves to think, because then things are not such a big deal. You know, it just comes and goes and comes and goes. But of course, we have to live according to laws of karma, consequences, because there will be consequences. So it's not as if it doesn't matter in that way, but it means that we can let things go in a much easier way. If we see things, they're like a dream, they're like an illusion. So it's using the ultimate bodhicitta as a way of thinking, reasoning with ourselves. And so we can do that, we can think like, if in a dream, if we have an argument in the dream, we have an enemy in the dream. We don't. When we wake up, we don't continue arguing, right? Because we know it was a dream. It's that same idea of ultimate reality. So when we wake up from sleeping, we might have had this heated argument in the dream, even a fight, and then we wake up and this is all. Luckily, it was just a dream. We don't carry on. So in the same way, if we have that understanding of ultimate reality, we don't fight with an enemy that is like an illusion, that is appearance and emptiness. What's the point? So we can, in any case, we should relate to this verse with patience. We should relate to anger or to difficult situations. We should give up anger in difficult situations, and then we should practice patience to the utmost of our ability, however we can. Reason, be mindful, be aware. Again and again and again, it says, when it comes to the negative emotions, tell yourself again and again, and be familiar again and again with a remedy here with patience. Then you might be able to apply it in the moment when it's really needed. And of course, ultimately then, eventually, then it says, you will become a non-returner. And then this next verse says that we should give up resentment. So that's an aspect of anger, right? Resentment is past, things that happened in the past. We carry it. So we can also think, just like I carry resentment, I remember those things that person did or said or hurt me so much, whatever. Then we think, well, others, I have hurt others. Surely I have hurt others. Maybe I know some of them, but even I have hurt others without knowing. Maybe unintentionally, but I've still, unskillfully, I have acted in ways that have hurt others. And so this has caused resentment in others, in them. where they think, and where I think, he abused me, he struck me, he defeated me, he did all these things to me. How could he do that? And he took all my money. All my money to his purloin. Purloin, that means to steal, does it? Purloin? What does it mean to purloin? Even English people don't know what it means. Purloin, does it mean to borrow or to, it must mean to steal? To take to harbor such resentment leads to strife. So give up your grudges and then you will sleep well. You will have peace of mind. Who are you benefiting through your resentment and carrying all of this weight and burden through resentment? It's an obstacle. It's an obstacle to your peace of mind. It's an obstacle to your path. It's an obstacle to your sleep. It's an obstacle to your having a good, comfortable, to your well-being, good, comfortable life. So, and also it gives rise to negative actions, mental anxiety. So we need to develop forgiveness and move on. Let go, forgive, move on. Yeshe talks so much about forgiveness. All the Tibetans, you know how much they have practiced forgiveness because their families have suffered so much, they have suffered so much, their loved ones have suffered. That's always where negative emotions come in. It's like in relation to our families, to our loved ones, or to our enemies. We think, oh, they hurt me, they hurt my loved ones, or they benefited my enemies. So in that way, the Tibetans have practiced a lot of forgiveness in terms of what has gone on in terms of communism. So great examples of how to let go of the past. And so it's another aspect of patience. Patience like letting go, not holding on, not grasping, not being stuck with the past. It says the way of the Bodhisattva says, men of anger have no joy, forsaken by all happiness and peace. But those who seize and crush their anger will find their joy both now and in the future, and future lives. So it means that we have to know what is the real enemy. The real enemy is not external. The enemy is within our mind in terms of how we think. So maybe we can sit and reflect on that. Reflect on anger, the faults of anger. Reflect on in your own life, how has anger affected you? What consequences has anger had on you in your life? Your own anger or the anger of others? The anger of others, so in terms of resentment and also anger. And so please spend a bit of time thinking about, just focus, sit for a little while and focus on your breathing, and then go on to reflection. Thinking first about anger, faults of anger, resentment, in terms of yourself, in terms of others. And then think of the benefits of patience and how you have experienced it directly. Remember times where you have really managed to be patient and the consequences of that, okay? So just kind of loosely like that. Don't sit and think in ways that make yourself feel depressed and upset and go deeply into memories of the past. That's not the idea. Just touch, when you're reflecting, you touch them. You kind of move quickly from one thing to another. Not like going down, deep down, scuba diving into the past. Okay. So think about patience and develop an intention to be patient in the future. A strong intention. So we'll do the dedication. And we come back at 12 o'clock. So there's only 2 breaks. There's this break and there's a lunch break today. Nam de tam che se pa ne top ne nye pe da nam pam che ne che ga na che ba la to pa ye se pe so le do wa sho. Palden save lama rinpoche dage jiwo pende den shula kajen shempa gone jesunte kusun tujing adu sadu so sanje chudang suje chunam la Sangyo Padu Dane Chapsuche Dage Jinso Dipe Sunamde Drola Pendye Sanje Drupasho Sanje Chudang Sudi Chunamla Sangyo Padu Dane Chapsuche Dage jinso dipe sunamde Drola penje sanje drupasho Sanje chudang soji chunamla Shangjo badu dane chapsuji Dage jinso dipe sunamde Dola penje sanje drupasho semchen tamche devadang deve judan den pa jujik dunga dan dunga jin judan dalwa jujik Dungal me pe deva dam padang mendal wajujik Nyering chadan dan dalwe tonyom Chempola ne pajujik Semchen tamje deva dan deve judan den pajujik Dunga dan dunga jin judan dalwa jujik Dungal me pe dewa dampadang mendal wa jujik Nyering chadan dan dalwe tonyong Chempola Nepa Jujik Sem Jen Tam Je Deva Dan Deve Judan Den Pa Jujik Dunga Dan Dunga Ji Judan Dawa Almepe Wadam Padam Mindal Wajujik Nyering Chadan Dan Dalve Donyom Chempola Nepa Jujik. So we continue in the text now, verse 17. It says, understand your thoughts to be like figures drawn on water or sandy soil or carved in stone. Of these, for tainted thoughts, the first is the best, while when you long for Dharma, it's the last is the best. So this is talking about, Nagarjuna is talking about our mental attitude. Like why in relation to trying to develop patience and trying to overcome the afflictions, trying to develop positive qualities, we have to understand our thoughts and we have to know which thoughts are beneficial and which are not. We have to understand which thoughts to cultivate. We are cultivating anger when we get angry. We are cultivating thoughts about anger. So the emotions arise due to the way we are thinking. So it's important that we have this awareness. And so he's describing this now in terms of our mental attitude that we need to be clear that our thoughts of affliction should be like this figures drawn on water. Figures drawn on water that just gone. The minute we make a shape, it's gone. So our afflictions should not stay. They should be like that, just like a drawing on water. And he's saying when it comes to the Dharma, all of the positive thoughts about the Dharma, our inspiration for Dharma, our faith, our devotion, our determination, our longing for Dharma, our trying to develop positive, like our positive aspirations, they should be like the drawings on stone, meaning they're solid. They don't disappear. It's not like 1 minute we have a wish, oh yes, I really want to practice, and then the next minute it's gone. That would be if our thoughts are like drawings on the water. If our longing for our engagement with Dharma is so weak that it's gone and we don't follow it up. So nothing comes of it, we don't get a result. Here the image is that, in terms of our practice, our study, our involvement with the Dharma, then our thoughts should be like carved in stone. Okay? So it says that's the best. In terms of the positive, the stone is best. In terms of the negative, the water is best. And the other one is in between. Sandy soil. That means sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. And often our mind is like that. It's like in sandy soil. We are not necessarily all the time only positive or negative. We are often a mixture of both. So that's what the sandy soil is compared to. Then he goes on to talk about speech. So this is our mental attitude. Now, speech in terms of relating to anger and patience. So speech that will generate anger is what we should avoid. Is what he talks about in verse 18. He says 3 kinds of speech are used by humankind. And these, the Buddha, the Victor, described variously as like honey, sweet like honey, or like flowers, true like flowers, or like filth, that's improper speech. So we should avoid the last of these. So verse 17 is about the importance of the state of mind, our thoughts, how we think. We need to be aware of how we think, because that will cause anger. Then we need to be aware of our speech. Verse 18 is our speech can also spark off anger, or spark off anger in others, or express our own anger, then spark off anger in others. So he's recommending, or the Buddha recommended, out of these three types of speech, we should just avoid the last one. The two first ones are good. Sweet words, kind, pleasing words, gentle speech, understanding speech, speech where we are trying to think of the benefit of others, we're aware of others. We don't sow discord, we don't cause conflict due to our speech. We don't discourage others with our speech. Instead, we encourage people, use encouragement, words that bring harmony. So this is what he says, that's like honey. It's very sweet words. That's what we should do. We should try to have sweet, positive speech, and we should try to have truthful speech. Is the second one. Just like he says, like flowers. The second is beautiful and worthy of praise, like a flower. So when we are truthful, in a gentle, in a kind way, with a good motivation, a lot of it is depending on our motivation and our skill. Try to be truthful. Don't mislead people. Don't deceive people. Don't pull people around and take advantage of people through speech, or influence people for your own selfish gains. Kind of speaking in a roundabout way because you want something from them. So selfish speech is what we should avoid. And truthful speech is like the opposite of that, isn't it? Not to mislead people. Truthful doesn't mean we have to always say what we think, because what we think is not necessarily the truth. But truthful meaning like not to mislead, not to deceive, not to be dishonest. And then the third one is where it really is angry, hurtful, insulting, divisive, harsh speech. That's what we should avoid. It says the third, that is like filth, it's improper speech. So, but gentle, meaningful speech, you could say. Speech that is uplifting, that's reconciliatory. So that's verse 18. So these are also related to anger, because if we are not mindful of our speech and our thoughts, then anger will easily arise. Then verse 19, Nagarjuna talks about diligence. And what we should be diligent in, how we should, where we should apply our efforts. So he says here, some there are who go from light to light, and some whose end from dark is darkness still, while some from light to dark or dark to light end up. Thus four of these be as the first. So he's talking about individuals. Individuals, so we have to think, well, what kind of individual am I guess. But in the whole, it's telling us like what we should try to achieve through diligence, through applying diligence. We should try to achieve to go from light to light, meaning don't lose the positive you have, don't lose your positive qualities, don't allow the negative to take over, don't go down, don't allow your mind to go into negativity and darkness, and in terms of, so you can think of it both in terms of this life and in terms of from birth to birth. We should not lose the good and positive conditions and connections we have now. Now we have what you call precious human birth. We have met the Dharma, we have met the spiritual path, we have all the right conditions for practicing the teaching so that we can develop inner peace and stability. We have the outer conditions, we have the interest, we have the leisure, we have the freedom and they call the freedom and assets in terms of precious human birth. So that's what we should treasure that, and we should with our effort due to diligence, we should keep that alive and make sure that we don't lose that, both in this life and the next life, that we don't get pulled away from the Dharma into things that are become obstacles to our practice or obstacles to what is ultimately to our own benefit, because at the end of the day all we have is our own mind. At the end of this life all we have is our own mind and our own karma. So that's why it is so important that we work on developing mental stability and that we use our life to practice, or live according to ethics, you could say, and practice positive actions, do what is right and good and accumulate merit, because that is all we have. The consequences of our actions in this life is all we have at the time of our death. And the mental inner stability we have developed during this life is also all we have. These two things is all we have at the time of our death. So that's why we have to think, how I use my life now is very, very important. It's not, like we might tend to think, my life is so long, I have all my life ahead of me. I might live 50 years still. I might think that, I have all the time in the world, but of course we don't know that. And even if we did 50 years, it's actually very short. 50 years go so quickly. Look at how quick time has gone from, just think, like COVID now, the lockdown now is like a little marker in our mind, in everybody's mind. So you think, COVID, from the time of COVID till now, how many years was that? And how quickly did that go? And what happened in that time? So it shows us, how quickly, 50 years could be gone, if we have 50 years. So when we think of our life and if you believe in rebirth and you think long term and think of rebirth, think that everything, all the good things in this life, you don't want to lose it. And that's where you should put your diligence and your efforts and your application into, to make sure that you nurture those aspects while you can, while you have the conditions, while you have all these freedoms and assets that we sometimes take for granted. And we use them to change ourselves as well, because it's not as if we are necessarily all pure now, this going from light to light. Yes, we have good conditions, but we have a lot of work to do still. So we want to use the teachings to change our mind, so we really can go from light to light, and not, like this says, go from dark to darkness means like we go, if we have lived our life in a negative way and negative actions, and it means going to lower realms, being reborn in conditions that are where it's very, very difficult. Here, light and dark is used as this. It's used as a metaphor for being unable to see. It's a metaphor for ignorance. So being able to see. It's not literally dark and light, but it means like in darkness we are unable to see. So for that reason it's used in that way. And being unable to see is a metaphor for ignorance. So going from dark to darkness, or going from light to dark, or from dark to light. So maybe a high rebirth to a low rebirth, or a low rebirth to a higher rebirth, which is difficult. So we need to make use of our conditions, and we need to also recognize on a very simple sort of way, thinking, how does that affect me? How does it relate to me? Thinking, of course, yes, I need to do what I can in terms of application to these aspects of the Dharma: patience, my anger, my mind, diligence, generosity, etc. All of that, taming my mind. And also in terms of my environment, because we are influenced by our environment, so influenced by our friends, influenced, like if we say, I want to make sure I don't get distracted from what I'm trying to do, then those distractions are often if we have wrong friends. It's actually said in the teachings, like if we're trying to tame our mind and trying to transform the afflictions, transform our anger, attachment, ignorance, we should have good friends. Make sure we have good friends, because our good friends will be our support and our strength on that path. Whereas if we have bad friends, then they will also influence us. We are not strong enough to just be anywhere and not be influenced. So that's something we can all think about. I'm trying to give you ways of reflecting on this. Okay. So, verse 20 says, it's kind of similar. It says, men like mangoes can be sour and yet look ripe. This is a famous verse, isn't it? Some, although ripe, they look green, and others, green, are sour indeed, while others still look ripe, and ripe they are. So from considering this, know how to act. So this relates to, also relates to understanding who you should associate with, like good friends, bad friends. And it relates to our actions and our intentions, that our actions might not match our intentions. Our intentions should match our actions. I mean, like we should have positive intentions, we should act out positive intentions. But so first he says the human beings, we like this fruit. If you're all very familiar with mangoes, this is a very good example. Mangoes, I sometimes think avocados, they're so disappointing sometimes. You cut the avocado. Oh. Maybe we all like avocados. So sour and they look ripe. It's like our actions. It's like when this fruit looks ripe on the outside, but inside it doesn't match. It's like when our actions look, what we're doing externally, it looks okay. From the outside we look really good. We have a really very convincing, everything about us is totally convincing, but inside we are unripe. Maybe we are like either our intentions are not correct, or we are dishonest, or somehow we are immature. Mentally, it's like just like the fruit is immature. Our mind is immature. Yes, how do we know? We don't really know. We can't go and look out. But that's what we find out when we get to know people, isn't it? Then we find out a little bit more. And of course we have to accept that we are not perfect, we're all human beings. Sometimes we are in good form, sometimes we are not so, so we have to also be a little bit, like patient, and also a little bit accepting of both of ourselves and of others, that we are not perfect. We should not expect everybody to be perfect. But we should ourselves aim to be perfect. We should aim to go in the right direction. So when it says, some, though ripe, they look green. So they appear not so good. But maybe they are like, the rough diamond. They don't look so appetizing on the inside, but inside they're really mature. Their mind is rich and full of the right intentions and qualities and kindness and caring. And then some are green, and indeed, when you open them up, they are very green. So it's very honest, straightforward, simply immature, it's immature. Appears immature, acts immature, speaks immature, like a child. That's the green and sour one. And then there are ones that look ripe, and they are ripe. So they are mature, they act mature, they have a stable mind. They don't have a mind that is so immature like a child, that when somebody doesn't look at them, doesn't smile at them for whatever reason, then they get all hurt, or they get all upset, or somebody says this and they get all upset, and they're oversensitive. That's like an immature, unstable mind. When we get so easily affected by everyone else around us, so insecure, that's a sign of immaturity, isn't it? So here it says some are immature. Maybe they just take a little bit longer, so we have to be patient. Let them, put them in the window and wait a few weeks, And the others, they're ripe, they look ripe, they are ripe. That's how we should be, where actions and intentions and inner and outer correspond. And then again, we should know that when to have friends and to have good friends. So meaning that if we are not very super stable ourselves, if we surround ourselves with a lot of unstable, oversensitive, prickly individuals who have maybe only selfish intentions or harmful intentions even, then that will affect us. If we are not completely mature yet, we still need time. So here it means we should be diligent in this application of wholesome intentions, wholesome actions, and also wholesome friends. And in terms of diligence, it says we apply diligence to our emotions in 3 areas. There are 3 areas where we apply, or in general to, when you describe diligence, you apply diligence to overcoming the negative emotions. You have to be very diligent when it relates to that, because those negative emotions are the causes of suffering. And then you apply diligence to accumulation of merit. So to the positives, in terms of really doing good things. Why do we sit around and think that it's okay to do nothing? We have to really apply ourselves, have strong intention to use our life for something really good. That's the best thing we could do. Don't waste your time. Decide what you want to do, what is really meaningful and valuable to you. What will be really meaningful and valuable to you at the end of your life? And then really, there might be many things, of course. As a layperson, you have many, a whole palette of areas of activity. It's more simple for a nun like myself. But you have to think of your professions, your family life, all of these things. I have many things to think about as well. In a different way, isn't it, in terms of when you make those choices? So, as a layperson, which this letter was written to the king, a layperson, you have to think about how can I really make the most of my life? The king's position was already clear. He didn't have to choose his profession. He was a king. But so he had so many things he could do to benefit the kingdom and people in his kingdom. Make sure they have enough food. Make sure they're protected. Make sure they have education. Make sure they have health care. Make sure the roads are okay. No enemies, no thieves, all of that. So in the same way, you should all make sure, in my life, where do I want to apply this diligence? There's so many areas that I need to apply diligence to. Certainly, of course, we're talking about the mind when it comes to the Dharma. The mind is the most essential. If your mind is all over the place, then whatever you do will become chaotic. Everything you apply yourself to will become chaotic. But we have to be diligent in these three areas, yes. Taming our mind, overcoming the emotions, but also accumulation of merit. And then the third says benefiting beings, which is also like accumulating merit. So how to do that? We often think that, or we forget about those, the last two. We think as Buddhists, yes, we just have to work on taming my mind, but all three areas, as we should not waste our time. We should use our life and really make clear, have strong intentions, and then apply ourselves to do the very, very best. Then if we do that, then we are somebody who looks ripe and is indeed ripe. Because you know what you want to do. You know and you're going to apply yourself to that, something very meaningful. Your intentions and your wholesome intentions and your actions have come together. This is something to reflect on, I think. The opposite of diligence is laziness, right? Laziness. So we all have to be aware of laziness as a sort of enemy that sneaks in. Like our tendency to put off, our tendency to say, mañana, I will do it tomorrow, I will apply, I will do this what I can to help others, or I will work on my mind, I will meditate, I will study, but not now. We will put things off. This is one aspect of laziness. And another aspect of laziness is where we discourage ourselves. We say, like a little voice in our mind says, I'm not really capable, I can't do it. We talk ourselves into a little sort of depression by feeling, by telling ourselves that we are incapable, how incapable we are. how unable we are to do something. That is seen and categorized as a form of laziness. We should know that, because often people fall into that sort of feeling, in a way like feeling sorry for ourselves. We can very easily feel sorry for ourselves. If something happens and we feel sorry for ourselves, it's not really very useful. It's not very helpful. Nothing good comes of that, feeling sorry for ourselves. So we sink into that little discouraging hole. So then you have to remember, this is laziness, it's me being lazy. I should not be listening to that voice in my head. I should move on, snap out of that. Not be faint-hearted. It's called faint-heartedness. So we should have the diligence where we don't ignore our true priorities. What our true priorities are, that's where we should be diligent. So that's verse 20. Do you have any questions or anything you want to say so far about this? Anybody? Yeah?
With verse 17 about the thoughts in water, sand and soil, are they kind of like sankharas where the negative habituation, those are the stone ones that we need to get rid of? Or, and then, a related question, you were talking about where was it? You were talking about anger having negative consequences and subtle consequences.
I can't hear you so well. Sorry.
You said that anger has external and subtle consequences, and subtle consequences are karma.
Mm-hmm.
Is karma the same as sankhara, or are they different?
Karma is consequences. Yes. You're probably used to different expressions or different terms.
Okay.
Samkara. Did you say samkara or samskara? Samkara. So I'm not so used to it. It's a Sanskrit term. I'm not really so. I'm sure it's something you can look up. So I don't want to respond to what I think it might be, because I might be wrong. But in terms of the verse 17, when it says our tainted thoughts, it means like thoughts that are thoughts of attachment, delusion, and aversion. The three root afflictions. Three root negative emotions that are that create samsara. That is, like it says, ignorance and delusion is the root of all the suffering, and now like the belief in a self. Is this what you're asking about? No. So I got the feeling. So
don't worry about it.
Now I'm very worried. Did you understand what I was saying? Was it clear what I was saying? Or not so clear?
I think out that basically karma are consequences.
Yes.
Sankhara in the Sanskrit term refers to negative habituation patterns, like seeds of reaction to situations. So sankharas can negative thought processes are things that are reinforced by anger, and anger reinforces it itself. So one of the consequences of anger, I think, is your own negative habituation pattern, as well as other consequences.
It sounds like you're talking about karma, cause and effect, like the seeds of karma, the seeds of the consequences of our actions. Yes. So what I was saying is that there are the very obvious results of anger, all the destruction that we create through our anger, both through speech and actions, and then there are the hidden, unseen consequences, which is the seeds we are planting for continual anger and for consequences that return due to, we cannot really see, what will come of this, my outburst that I had, or even say somebody fight, they end up killing, or you end up killing somebody. The consequences of that, we can't see clearly what will it be, but there will be corresponding consequences. So that's the hidden results. Yeah. So there's the very obvious, and then the hidden consequences. Anybody else? Yeah.
So in terms of wholesome friendships, if you realize that you have a friend that's not so wholesome,
Yeah.
you kind of want to break free from that friendship without upsetting them, or with compassion, because you understand that perhaps they're a bit immature. What's the best way then, the Buddhist way of doing that, with less action stores than keeping the peace?
Well, I think those. If you can just gently, slowly create you see each other less and less and less. I guess.
I see them every day.
Oh, every day.
Yeah, I work with them every day of the week, yeah. The same office every day. Yeah.
Then you don't have to socialize with them, but you can see them as, if that's possible, as a good teacher in that environment where they teach you mindfulness, they teach you, awareness and patience. So if you cannot remove yourself from the situation, you have to use it. If you can remove yourself, move to another office, then you should do that. So be practical about it. Somebody else said, yeah.
It's interesting that there's no explicit mention of meditation as part of the good life. There's allusions to it towards discipline and patience and all these things, but there's no explicit, sit and meditate as a way of purifying the mind, as a way of developing the mind. And is that a reflection of Nagarjuna himself and his time and kind of the tradition that he was in at that point, or is there, because Kagyu Buddhism is very big on meditation, so it's very interesting that there's not that commonality there.
Yeah. So in the text, there is the actual from verse 21 starts what you could say could be the way of beginning of instructions for meditation. And the beginning of the instructions is to remove instability. Even the previous is like removing any instability to controlling the mind. So anger is also part of that. And then in the next that follows is desire, because desire is such a big thing in the human realm. So Nagarjuna approaches it saying, looking at desire, removing all of the things that when those aspects are present, then meditation is impossible. And a big part of it is like that. So there will be some things about meditation, but mostly it's, and I think that's very, very realistic in a way, and also he's talking to a king, but apart from that, if we think of now how full of stimulation life is for most people, then purely just to give meditation instructions without looking at all the things that are ruffling our mind is only a part of it. Anybody? Yeah?
A question about verse 18, specifically improper speech. The way I talk to my three brothers could certainly be described as improper speech.
Okay.
If I'm brutally honest. But there's not improper motivation behind it, I suppose. And I wonder what the relationship is between improper speech and the intentions behind the speech. I
Yeah.
So I suppose there's a relationship there that I'm interested in.
Sure. Yeah, if it is a positive relationship and you're just teasing each other, then that's not considered improper speech. But if you did that with someone else, someone you didn't know, they might not take it so well. They may not like to be teased, for example. They might think you're insulting them. So it's about being skillful. It's not only the intention, it's also the speech itself, because it depends who you talk to. And so generally improper speech is called like harsh speech or divisive speech, speech that, divides friends, dishonest speech. So of course that is also mental, but lying, you could still lie with a good motivation. You could lie to protect somebody, because you might see that there's somebody who's being threatened by a burglar, and or somebody is chasing after them, and you might say, oh, he's gone that way instead of that way, because you want to protect the person, so that you're telling a lie. And that would, I think, be very acceptable. But generally, to mislead people is considered improper speech. Harsh and divisive speech is considered improper speech. So it will depend on the relationship. Yeah. What's that?
Reassuring.
Okay. Maybe you should check with your brothers. Yeah?
When you were talking about patience and the 4 ways to counter anger or like negative emotions, I find it difficult when I'm trying to develop. Can you develop patience about someone else's negative situation? Like if someone else is suffering and then I can't really do much about it, I find it hard to then just think, oh, I see it as a dream, or it's a teacher for them, or I don't know how to apply those.
So you suffer because they suffer?
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe, you have to, if you cannot do anything, you have to have some patience with the situation. If there's nothing you can do to improve the situation, then you have to be patient and accept it, and not torture yourself, because that only makes it worse. And you can do what you can to help the other person. If there is something you can do, then you should apply yourself in that way. So I think there is a degree of patience involved from your side, that if you know that with time things might change, things will get better, it's not going to stay like this, tell yourself these things rather than only being caught up in the difficulty. Yeah?
Apologies for asking a question about the last week's verse, but we kind of briefly touched on it today, so I thought others might have the same question. On 9,
Yeah.
it starts with those who show their parents great respect. It feels quite literal. Is there actually a more abstract reading that I'm meant to be taking from it? But at the moment I can only read it in terms of, literal meaning of the word. Show your parents respect and you'll attain a higher realm, which feels quite narrow.
For those who show their parents great respect, the Brahma Master, by venerating them, they'll win repute. In future, they'll attain it. To vow, following path of discipline. I think it means elders, having respect for elders. When we say parents, it doesn't mean only our parents, but certainly parents and elders. So those who have helped you, those who have supported you, those who have guided you, those who have taught you, those who have, helped you along the way. I think it means all of that, not just the parents. But it's true, like that's how you should interpret the text to our time. But at the same time, I think we have kind of lost this idea of showing respect for parents, haven't we? Many people feel that they don't really have great appreciation for what their parents did from a Buddhist point of view. You know, they gave us life and nurtured us, and all, like you might be familiar with how you contemplate from the time you were born and up till now, without our parents looking after us. Even if we might think they didn't do a great job, they could have done better, then without them we would not be here. So there's a lot of gratitude involved and respect for the parents. But I think you can expand it, you should expand it. For all those who have helped you, all those who have guided you, all those who have been there for you. And because really in our life we are always depending on others, we are always, nothing comes just from ourselves. So I would see it like that.
I think the narrowness for me actually comes from the last line, the sort of instrumental idea that you show your parent reverence to attain the higher realm.
By venerating them, they'll win repute. Follow the path of a disciple, especially for the people. Okay, I will look into it. I don't have an immediate anything coming to mind. Sometimes if this happens, I just jump. So I think we just have few minutes, 5 minutes left, and then we could sit. And why don't you sit and contemplate on the diligence aspect before we go on to the next part. Verse 21. To reflect on the benefits of diligence, the consequence of the lack of diligence, consequence of laziness, and in terms of your main areas of your main priorities, but mainly in terms of Dharma. But just look at it in your own life and saying, how is my diligence? How, between the scale from 1 to 10, where am I in terms of diligence? How much of my time am I using for actually beneficial things? How much of my time is just neutral time? How much of my time is even negatively spent? Both in terms of how I think, what I do, my activities, my daily activities. I sleep for 8 hours, and the other 16 hours I'm awake. What do I do then? My intentions, how is my intention? So please try and analyze and reflect a little bit on your own level of diligence, and whether your diligence is properly directed, and then whether there is, how much laziness plays a part. Okay? We'll sit for 5 minutes. course, it means you should set a strong intention to be diligent and apply diligence in areas that are important to you. Okay, so we do the dedication. Sanam de jese pane thomne nye pedanam pamchene jegana je balav tupaye sepe sole doa doa sho samjo samjo rinpoche Maje panam je jo chik che pai nyam pai me padang kone kondo pelwa sho palen la me shabe ten padang kanyam yong la de che jong wadang da shen ma lu so sa rib jang ne nyo tu san de sa la ge ba sho. So I'm sorry today I'm late and running around a lot because actually today we found out, or yesterday we found out that later today Khenpo Gawang will be arriving. Khenpo Gawang, who is in Samiling at the moment, together with Lama Katen, they're arriving today and they're going to, they're on their way. You know, there's been 2 Khenpos in Samiling, some of you will know. Khenpo Gawang, who is Gyaltsab Rinpoche's Khenpo from Ralang Monastery near Sikkim, in Sikkim. And he's one of the main Khenpos. And then there is Khenpo Wangchuk, and he is from Sherabling, or the nunnery of Sherabling. So he's been for a few months in Samiling, And he's finished his teachings, and now they're taking him to Birmingham. He's flying this afternoon back to India, and then the others are coming down here. So we just found that out. So we are running around a little bit frantically trying to get everything ready and get the flat ready for them and planning breakfasts. So that's the situation. He's not here to teach because he's going straight back. They might stay for 2 nights, and then they're going back to Samiling because he's in the middle of a course in Samiling. Unfortunately, it would be nice to have something here, but maybe next year, I hope. Palden save lama rinpoche dagi chiwo bende den shula kaden chember gone jesunde kuson tu jing adup sadu sa Chedang soje chonam la sham jo padu dane chap soje dage jin soje be sunam je drola penje sanje rupai sho sanje chedang soje chonam la Padu dane chab suji Dagi jin soji be sunam ji Drola penje sanje rupai sho Sanje chudang soji chonam la Sanje padu dane chab suji Dagi jin soji be sunam ji Drola penje sanje rupa sho Sem chen tam je deva dang deve jujik Dunga dan dunga jin judang dalwa jujik Dungal me pe deva dam padang mendal wa jujik Nyering chadang dan dalwe tonyom chempola ne pa jujik Sem jen tam je deva dang deve judang dem pa jujik Dunga dan dunga ji judan dawa Dungal me pe deva tampa dang mendawa juji Nyering chadan dan dalwe tonyom chempola ne pa juji Sem chen tam je deva dang deve judam den pa juji Dunga dang judam dawa juji Dungal me pe deva tam pa dang mendawa juji Nyering chadan dan dalwe tonyom chempola ne pa joji. So in the break I looked up the verse 9 and what I saw in a commentary is that, so he says there, those who show their parents great respect with Brahma or a master will be linked. By venerating them, they'll win repute. In the future, they'll attain the higher realms. And what was explained is that, they are the worst things we can do. What is it, the 5 heinous crimes or something it's called, like killing an arhat, harming a Buddha, making a Buddha bleed, and also killing your mother or killing your father. So the way it was explained there, it was in response to the question, like previous question there, is like why is it that there is such a such a big result that they would attain higher realms if you pay respects to your parents? Because our parents are our closest connection, our closest, most important link, really. And so whatever we do in relation to them, both good and bad, has huge consequences. That's how it's explained. Like, if we do good things, if we respect them, venerate them, look after them when they get old, this kind of thing, make sure they're okay. This is huge, has huge positive consequences. Whereas if you kill your own parents, as one of these 5 heinous crimes, it says you go straight. It's one of the few actions that will take you straight down, straight to hell, like instant, more or less instant consequences, karmic consequences. And so powerful. So it's because it's a very powerful relationship. So both good and bad. And that seems to be what is like the case here in verse 9. Okay, so just to explain that. So then we are now in verse 21. We are now at the point where it talks about the way to eliminate desire. We've talked about how to eliminate anger. Now it's about how to eliminate desire. Now all of these aspects are important if we want to meditate. If we are going to develop meditative stability, we cannot sit in one hand and churn over thoughts about anger and resentment or desire and grasping and attachment and still meditate, still try to meditate. All of the afflictive mind states put an end to our shine. The moment we get caught up in attachment, aversion, jealousy, pride, blah, all the rest of it, that's where we run into the wall. We come to an end. We might have been sitting quite stably in meditation, focusing, whatever, whether outer, inner object, whatever your focus was, but you were in the present with clarity and stability to some degree, and then thoughts start to proliferate about, say, desire or anger. That's it. If you go for those thoughts, there's no more stability, there's no more clarity, there's no more presence, right? We've lost it. Our meditation has come to an end. So for that reason, Nagarjuna is explaining all of the hindrances to our meditation. He's explaining all of the things we need to clear out of the way before shine, or in order for shine to grow and get established. It's like clearing the ground. It's like you have a garden full of brambles and thistles and rocks, and you don't just go out there and scatter your seeds of broad beans and tomatoes and all of the rest of it, your cabbages, because they won't survive. You first have to clear all the brambles, cut down the weeds, dig out the roots, dig the ground, whatever method of gardening you're following. Some people do the no-dig method. I don't know, but in any case, we have to dig out the roots and all of the afflictions and proliferating afflictive mind states. We cannot have that together. So this is why it's now Nagarjuna goes into great lengths about describing desire. But so one commentary, what they do at this point, and I thought that makes sense, because in verse 36 and 37, now there's a whole series of verses on desire, like sexual desire, all kinds of desire. So later on in verse 36 and 37, there is another way of describing the distractions. Distraction by pleasurable indulgence. And this relates to choosing a partner, a husband or a wife. Again, remember, he's talking to a king, he's talking also to a male, he's talking to a king. So all of what you see in these verses, you must remember to transcribe that. You must remember this is a letter to a king, a man, a king, a layperson. And for that reason, all the verses are about the female body and how he should relate to that. But you have to transcribe it yourself in your own way. And so he talks in verse 36 and 37 about partners to be avoided and partners to choose. So then the commentary says it makes sense to move that into this place, before verse 21, to look at verse 36 and 37. You have that in your text. And this is about giving up attachment to one's partner. And it's about giving up attachment to desire or attachment that that disturbs our mental stability and concentration. So it actually all comes under meditation, even though we haven't at all looked at meditation yet, but it's related to meditation. So here he says the partners to be avoided. He says a murderess, a murderer or a murderess who sides with enemies, or a queen who holds her husband in contempt, a thieving wife who steals the smallest things. It's these three kinds of wife you must avoid. Okay, so please remember, don't get offended. It's all. It also goes for the murderers, the kings, and the thieving husbands. So these are all to be avoided. And the reason this is given a verse is also because for a layperson, partners, it's like they're a huge part of your life. You partner up with someone supposedly for life. Supposedly, like when people marry at least, they have the intention to stay together for life, through thick and thin. So partners are important and has great implication what kind of partner you take, or you choose, or you're attracted to. So Nagarjuna is telling the king, you should choose well. Choose well. Don't go for the first verse, go for the second. So he's advising him. He's being a, what do you call it? Marriage consultant. So this is straightforward, isn't it? You wouldn't want a partner who's murderous or steals or who doesn't respect partner. I think a partnership, like a marriage or a love relationship, it's built on trust. You can trust each other. You can trust that you each will look after each other, you will not hurt each other, you will do the very, very best not to hurt each other. That should certainly be a foundation in any relationship. That you really want the best for your partner. You really want them to thrive. You want them to be happy. You want to do what you can to keep your partner happy. And then you can be happy together. So for that reason, of course, this first verse is clearly out. And then he says, those you to be taken as a partner, he says, a wife who follows you like a sister, who's affectionate like a true and loving friend, who is supportive like a mother, or obedient like a maid. She should be honored like a family god. So again, translate that into the male, same. Husband who's like a brother, affectionate, like a father, obedient, like a maid. Does it not? It doesn't exist. What do the men say in this case? Yeah. So what would you say instead? Huh? A butler. I mean, men can also be very, what do you call it, house, or like supportive, right? In different ways, maybe. Maybe not like a maid. So we'll leave that one out, the maid bit. So the point is, choose. Nagarjuna is advising the king and all of you to take a good partner. Build your relationship on a good foundation, on kindness, on trust, on love, on helping each other, just like a sister would do, or like a friend, a kind friend would do. You have to be sister, partner, friend, wife, husband, mother, all together, maid, all together in a relationship like that. It's not just like one thing or another thing, isn't it? It's like all these things should be contained in a relationship. Sometimes it's one, sometimes it's the other. So all of these are good, and all of these qualities should be respected, is kind of what he's saying. It should be looked for. Yeah. Not to harm each other, key point. So let's go on to page 21. Verse 21. So then it goes on from there. Now you have found your partner, then you do not gaze on another's wives. But if you do, regard them as your mother, your child, or your sibling, depending on their age. Should lust arise, think well. They are by nature unclean. So here this relates to then, because desire is part of human relationship, human nature, ordinary, relative human nature. So in this case, like to avoid, because everybody has so many sensory impressions, and if you want a relationship to work, you cannot disregard the feelings of your partner. So being faithful to your partner is basically also one of the foundations, because if you're not, then you hurt your partner, and jealousy arises, and all of that. So even though everybody is human, it means if you do feel some sort of attraction to others, when you're committed to one, then you look at them. Try not to look at them with the eyes of attraction, but look at them as if you're looking at your own sister, at your own mother, at your own family, relative. And so then you don't fall into the feelings of desire for someone else. And this is the advice he's giving here. You change your perception, basically. You don't just look. You like in the next verse goes into guarding your senses from desire. Like the way it works is we see things, we hear things, we touch, we taste. And then if we have no mindfulness, we're just like pulled here, there, and all directions, and allowing emotions to arise. So by changing your perception of what you see, you don't allow any feelings of desire to arise. you don't get distracted. It's a way of taming your own mind, of course. One thing is he's talking about general life, but he's also talking, mainly he's talking about how to protect our mind from the afflictions that stop us from taming our mind. So how to keep a stable mind, basically, how to be mature, how to be like the ripe mango, how to be ripe and look ripe. So, another thing you can also think, if you're physically attracted, think what the body really contained, what the body is made up of. So you think by nature, it's unclean. It's just like filth. So of course, in some traditions, they would consider the bodies on the cemeteries in different degrees of decomposition. You sit on a cemetery to meditate on the bodies, to develop renunciation, and to really think of what is it that I have so much desire for. Sexual desire is a huge thing. In the West, it's like everything is sexualized. Even M&S advertisements, like anything. Because that hooks people's minds, because that is a very strong emotion in the human realm. So, particularly around desire, one needs to guard the senses. And then that's where you think about, what is it I'm so attracted to? If you're attracted to another person, an individual, when we think that we like something, we desire that person. Is it the body? Is it the touch? Is it the smell? Is it the sight? Is it the sound? Is it like, with all of our senses, we experience things. So actually desire is kind of just one of the, desire could arise through all the senses, but mostly through sight, isn't it? Form and sight. But then if you take that form apart and you think, what is it that I am so attracted to? What is it made up of? All the different aspects that you would see if you were in a laboratory, for example, then it's not very attractive. So a lot of it is impulse. We are constantly functioning on impulse. But so one of the way of changing our perception is either seeing that individual as my relative, or thinking of this unclean nature that is actually there as well. So the next verse talks about guarding the senses from desire. Guard this fickle mind as you would, so that's verse 22, as you would do your learning, your children, your treasure, or your life. Just like you would guard all these aspects, your education, your children, your wealth, and your own life, you should also guard your own mind. You should guard your own fickle mind, your own unsettled, distracted mind that goes here, there, and everywhere, even if we don't want it to. We need to rein it in and know how to rein it in. So don't leave your senses unguarded, your five senses, your sight, sound, don't leave them unguarded. Try to be aware and say, if our life is so precious to us, we would do anything to protect our life. People have security cameras, they have guards at the doors, whatever. Many, many doors, gates at the front, gates at the back, to keep thieves out, to keep anyone out. So, to protect our life, our situation, our wealth. So in the same way, if we put so much effort into protecting our life and our wealth and our children and our everything we have that we treasure, that we care about, then we should also guard our mind. Our mind is where we experience suffering, is where we experience happiness. So if we leave our mind completely unguarded, then we kind of miss the most important aspect. With our education, then we go over things again and again and again. When we're learning things, we memorize, we review, we take exams, we review, we memorize more, go over it again and again to learn, to really take in the education. So we cannot think that we should pay absolutely no attention to our mind and to our senses, and to have no concern, to just let things be. It's like we have a house full of wealth. In the middle of the house there's a big table. We pile up all of our wealth, our gold and silver and everything you have, all your cards, your credit cards, computers, telephones. And then you leave all the doors open and you go for a little walk. So this kind of like that. Leave 5 doors open, these are 5 senses, 5 windows and doors, and then just have a little wonder. That's sort of what we do when we leave our mind unguarded, when we don't think about, we're totally unprotected. So from all of the onslaught of advertisement, why do you think advertisement is such a big business? It's because we are so impressionable. We are so unguarded. Our mind is so unguarded. And so we take a bus ride and suddenly we desire this and we desire that. We desire so many things we have to have because of advertisement. It's because we didn't guard our senses. Then now if we are so impressionable to just simple advertisements, then we should also, in the bigger things in life, you want to protect your relationships, you want to protect your peace of mind. The most important thing to protect is your peace of mind. That's what this is about. Then you need to guard your senses. And why are there so many divorces anyway? Because people they don't guard their senses. They don't think it's something you just go with the flow. It's described like desire is like an elephant that is out grazing. And then there's a big well in the middle of this big savanna. And down at the bottom of the well is like a dry well, or on the side of the well, maybe it's not dry, but maybe deep down there's some tufts of green grass that look really, really attractive. And so the elephant, he goes down and tries to get them, and he falls in the well. He gets stuck. That's how it's like an example, metaphor for how we get stuck when we have so much grasping, so much clinging, and we pay for it. You pay for it. You get stuck. You get stuck because that is the nature of desire. The nature, Döchak is like. I'm not completely sure how to break it down, but Döchak means something like it has the attachment, it has the attraction, and the desire, but it also has an aspect that then, when you stop desiring, you cannot get free. You are stuck. It has like an aspect that glues you to that object. You cannot free yourself. And I think we can see that when you look at desire, how it works. You want something, you get it, and then after a while you don't really want it anymore. But then you're stuck with it. You cannot be free of it. Or that it turns, it turns bad. What was so attractive, it becomes something that becomes like, was pleasurable, but then you get sick from it. It becomes poisonous. Not necessarily poisonous, but painful. You have too much of one thing, it becomes painful. So desire and attachment is when we overestimate and over-exaggerate the desirability of one thing, something, someone, anything. Whatever it is that we are so sort of pulled towards, we have such a huge interest and wish to possess it and to have it. We have to have it because we think it is just so desirable, but it's partly due to our exaggeration. We over-exaggerate certain qualities and we don't see the other qualities. We don't see, we think this ice cream or this chocolate is so wonderful, so we eat. We don't see that by eating so much, we get sick. What was happiness or what was pleasure turns to suffering. So it has that aspect. And so really here, what Nagarjuna is telling the king, telling all of us, is we need to develop detachment. Detachment is the remedy, or one of the remedies. It means that in your mind, you have more perspective. You don't have that all-consuming exaggeration of attractiveness to something, to one object, out of proportion. This out of proportion view of something that it is so beautiful, it is so wonderful, it is so special. Instead, you have much more perspective of seeing things are impermanent. They are, have so many different aspects to them. They are this, like he's saying here, it's like my mother, my auntie, my this and that. However we look at it. But key point around this also that we need to remind ourselves, so it's like with anger, we need to know the pain and the faults or the consequences of anger. Same way we need to know the pain and consequences of desire, the faults of desire. That the desire, fulfilling our desire, is not happiness. And that desire in itself is pain, is suffering. It's unfulfilled longing. So we're lacking something, we are missing something. We feel incomplete when we have desire. The reason we have to have that thing out there that is so desirable to us is because we think that then we will be complete. Then we will be all sort of united with everything and everyone. Attain that oneness that we haven't managed to attain. That union, attain that union with the universe that we haven't managed to attain because we feel so separate from everything. So desire is a way of ego to try and, of course, to establish itself, but to try and from ego's point of view of attain that, completion, fulfillment. But in itself, it is suffering. And we all experience desire, we all experience anger, we all experience a whole lot of the emotions, the afflictions, but depending on our awareness, depending on our awareness of how it works, and depending on our belief in these things. Some people really genuinely believe this is how I will live a happy life. I just continue fulfilling my desires. Depending on how much we have absorbed the teachings on impermanence and appearance emptiness and all the Buddhist teachings, then gradually detachment will develop. Because when we have strong desire, we believe in that object of our desire as being something permanently able to fulfill us and to satisfy us. So that is, of course, a fallacy. That is wrong. It is not the case. Everything is impermanent. So the more you think about impermanence, the more detachment you will develop. Not in a cold way. Detachment doesn't mean you become cold and unloving. It just means that you appreciate what you have while you have it, but it's without the clinging. Attachment has so much clinging, so much grasping. Whereas you can love, and also attachment is very much about me, it's for me. This relationship is for me, it's to satisfy me. This person is here to make me happy. And when they don't make me happy, then it becomes the opposite. Then you start hating that person. You cannot bear the person anymore. So if our relationship is based on, it's not all about me, it's about, we try to, we all have to attain mental stability and understanding the nature of all these things, impermanent nature of all these things. And then there is less clinging, and you can just appreciate what you have when you have it, in the moment. You appreciate everything in your life that is there, but you don't grasp at it, as if, it will be there forever. And so then there's less suffering. You can let things go. So desire is also described as it's, again, it's because we are not really happy in ourselves. We are not fulfilled. We are not confident in who we are. We are not enough for ourselves. So we need everything from outside to complete us. From that point of view, it's also an aspect. But basically, Nagarjuna is advising the king on guard your senses, because this will help you to have mental stability. It will help you in your relationships. It will help you to progress and move in the right direction on the path. It will help your meditation. It will help your mental stability, which is essential. So, from that point of view, what did he say? He said, renounce all sensual pleasure as if it were a viper, poison, weapon, foe, or fire. And that's very strong words, isn't it? Renounce all sensual pleasure. So when you say renounce all sensual pleasure, surely the king did not renounce all sensual pleasure. I would imagine someone living as a king would have a great deal of sensual pleasure, would have all the best of everything. But I think generally how it's explained is that you should renounce attachment to sensual pleasure. Renounce attachment to, because it's the attachment that is the problem. It's the attachment that causes us suffering. He's not telling the king to become a monk, right? He's not saying you must go and take robes and take precepts and become a monk because that would be much better. He's not saying that. So, he's telling us, guard your senses and recognize desire for what it is. It steals your mental concentration and your stability, and it causes your suffering. So, verse 23 says, the pleasures we desire will bring us ruin. They're like the kimba fruit, the Buddha said. Avoid them. It's their chains that tightly bind the worldly in samsara's prison house. So this kimba fruit is apparently a fruit that is very colorful and attractive and sort of smells nice, looks nice, but is poisonous. If you eat it, you get sick. So he's saying that this is what, if we are caught up living around desire, then it would be like that. We would get sick. So avoid them, because that way we become prisoners in samsara, the change of the afflictions that makes us prisoners, makes us tied up in samsara. Then verse 24 is, it says, he's praising those who are able to guard their senses. It says, those whose fickle senses are controlled, these six that never cease to dart at things, and he who's fought and conquered many foes. The first is truly brave, the wise have said that, of he whose fickle senses are controlled. He's saying our sense organs, our senses, sense consciousness, they're constantly darting here and there, unstable, constantly changing. So he's saying that someone who can control their or guard their senses is a real hero, is someone who has a lot of courage, someone who's really fighting the right battle, who has found the right enemy, because otherwise we become prisoners. We become prisoners of our afflictions. So the real bravest hero is the one who wins in the battle with the senses, who's able to tame their mind. We might think, oh, this is really asking too much. What do you think? What do you think, Nagarjuna? What do you think of Nagarjuna's teachings? Does it make sense? Yeah, we don't have to think of, if you think this image is too strong, a viper, poison, weapon, foe, or fire, I think it's something we have to look at in our own experience. Look at your own experience. You have to all the time turn it back to your own experience. What have you experienced through your own attachment and aversion, through your own your own feelings, your five senses? What has it brought you? How much pain has it brought you? How much pleasure? Of course, there's a lot of nice things in the world. There's a lot of pleasure. It's not that, I don't think Nagarjuna is saying we should not have a nice time. We should not live a nice, enjoyable life. If we have nice, enjoyable things, environments, people, food, company, music, all these things that generally people enjoy, you should enjoy it, but without attachment, without clinging, without it being, when there's clinging, then it is just so important to you. You cannot bear to be without it. And then, when you have too much of it, then you're a prisoner. You cannot get away from it. You're stuck. Or you end up becoming like sick from it. That's the thing. It's like if we don't have a balance in our lives, in a simple way, we can say it's about having a balance in our life. In a very simple, ordinary way. In a bigger sense, it's about how do we really tame our mind and tame these afflictions that keep coming and keep reappearing. And in our whole life, we have been pulled here and there and everywhere. We have tried so many things and repeated so many mistakes so many times. And what has it actually done for me? So then in the bigger scheme of things, then it is looking much further than that and saying, how can I truly, genuinely develop peace of mind and be a benefit to myself and to others, become a bodhisattva, Buddha, eventually, even if it's lifetimes from now. So that's the big view, but we have to start small. So we have to look at the degree of our, like if we have obsessive desire, then I would say you should look at that, you should do something about that. If you just have a little bit of enjoyment here and there, it's okay. But if it causes you great distress and suffering, you need to deal with it. Because that is the cause of your pain. So then at least you have found the cause of your pain. That's very important. It's already the beginning of freedom. We found the cause of our pain, the root, you dig it out. You didn't even know where the root was, we can't do anything. So he says they're like, the pleasures we desire will bring us, they're like a kimber fruit. So the chains that tightly bind the worldly in samsara's prison. And then he goes on to say, of he whose fickle senses are controlled. No, did we do this already? We did that. I think I'm getting lost. Regard, so then 25. Regard a young girl's body on its own, meaning like, dissect it, take it apart. What is it really about? Young girl, young boy. It smells so foul, its openings 9, a pot of filth, insatiable and clothed with skin. Regard too the adornments on their own. So this is what I mentioned before. If there's strong physical desire, that is one of the remedies. Look at what am I so attracted to? When you take things apart, it is just, as we know, the body is made up of so many things. So in the way of the Bodhisattva, it's quoted here, it says that the scent that now perfumes the skin is sandalwood and nothing else. Because he also, like as part of the adornments, it says, yet how is it that one thing's fragrance causes you to long for something else? It's like if the smell of perfume gives someone a desire for that person, then he's sort of analyzing how does that work through the senses. how is it that we desire something that is made up of a lot of different things that when they're taken apart, we would really not find them attractive at all. And he says, a man with leprosy consumed by germs will stand before the fire for comfort's sake, but still find no relief. So no, the same is true for those attached to the pleasures they desire. So like with leprosy apparently, I mean now there is a cure for leprosy, but remember that time there was no cure. And apparently people would feel cold and stand by fires. And also, with sores all over the body, but of course in great suffering. And that fire would give no relief. So in the same way he's saying that if we are strongly attached to particular things that we are so, in our mind we build up so much importance about, through those pleasures also we don't get any relief. Desire just continuously repeats itself. So this is about understanding how desire tends to function. So it's like drinking salt water, right? That's a common example. Like where the more salt water we drink, the more thirsty we get. And there's a quote from a text that says, "If bliss it is to scratch and itch, what greater bliss not to have any itch at all." It would be a greater bliss not to have any itch at all. So in the same way, the worldly, or those who have great desire, they find some bliss by fulfilling desires, but the greatest bliss is the bliss that is free from desire. And in the 27 it says, in order that you see the absolute, get used to truly understanding things. No other practice is there such as this, possessed of special virtue, such as these. So this is saying that the antidote, how we truly become free, is by seeing, understanding the nature of reality. Reality itself, this appearance emptiness. If we really understand appearance emptiness, we would have no grasping, we would have no aversion. Just like we would not have aversion to an enemy after waking up from a dream, or have desire for something that we saw in a dream, and then when we wake up, because we know that it's appearance emptiness. It has no true, independent reality. But that, of course, we don't experience life like that. We experience very much myself, my suffering, others' suffering others cause me, the happiness others cause me, suffering and happiness, my feelings, my experiences. We take it all very real and very solid and very, we hold on to it, we grasp to it very much. So he says here that we should get used to understanding things, understanding the ultimate nature. That's the most virtuous thing we could do. That's how we would cut through all afflictions, is to understand the nature of mind and nature of phenomena. So here we should, for ourselves, we should try and make it a habit to remember that, to some extent to think of things like that and repeat it again and again, to have a familiarity, to gain a familiarity with thinking about things in that way, the ultimate, the relative, the ultimate, to think about impermanence, to consider impermanence, at least just think of impermanence of all things, then that's very, very effective. Nagarjuna says, do it again and again. Think again and again. And that is the best remedy for cutting through the afflictions. So I thought I was going to maybe leave it there. Let's leave it there. This, up until there, very much relates to removing, cutting through the desire that creates instability, that is not conducive to meditation, and the desire that is controlling the mind, where we don't have any control of the mind when desire is present. So it's the way to eliminate desire so that we can gain mental stability. Yeah? So guard the fickle mind, guard your restless mind in the same way as you would guard your children, your wealth, your own life. That's very important, to guard the senses. Simple mindfulness, not to be so carried away through the five senses, is really hugely important for maintaining mental stability. Do you have anything you want to ask or say? So what I think we could also do is spend some 15 minutes meditating. And you could reflect again. A third reflection today is reflecting on desire. We've reflected on anger, the faults of anger, and the benefits of patience. We've reflected on the importance and benefits of diligence, and the faults and consequences of laziness, not having diligence. So now we do the same with desire. Please sit and reflect for yourself on how much does it have a hold on you. I mean, of course it has a hold on all of us, but in terms of how guarded is my mind? How much in control of my own mind am I? Or how much am I ruled by the afflictions just simply through the five senses, seeing, hearing, etc.? Our thoughts. And think about the benefit of guarding the senses, the importance of guarding the senses. So distraction. It's distraction. Distraction is how distracted am I? And then set a strong intention to develop this awareness and mindfulness, protection, protect yourself. And if you come to a point of you can't really reflect any further, you just sit and do shine. Stay present with shine. So that you're not confused, there is what they call pure desire or impure desire. So pure desire would be you want to do everything that furthers your path and that furthers your goal of taming your mind and that is good for you and that creates happiness. That's positive desire, pure desire. Negative desire, impure desire is what causes suffering. So you can have, of course, pure desire. So please have a look at the text between now and next class, next month, and then I hope it's useful for you, and then I'll see you next month. So let's do the dedication. And also I was going to say, those of you who study Tibetan, please use it for your Tibetan. You know, you got the Tibetan, you got the English, you got the phonetics, so it's a good way to study the language as well. Sanam de tam che se pane top ne nye pe danam pam che ne je ga na je bala du paye si pe sole do wa do wa sho sam jo sem jo rempo je ma che panam je jo che pa nyam pa me pa dang kone gondu pelwa sho palen la me shape den pa dang kanyam yong la te si jong wa dang da shen ma lu so sa de jang ne nyo to san je sa la